She jumped into the wrong car, thinking it was her Uber. The man inside wasn't a driver. He was a mafia boss everyone feared. But when she talked to him like he was just a normal guy, something in him broke. He couldn't let her go. Rosa Martinez had exactly $43 in her checking account, a broken phone charger, and approximately 15 seconds before the rain soaked through her only good jacket. Please be here, she muttered, squinting through the downpour at the street outside Mel's diner. Her feet screamed in protest. 8 hours on the floor during dinner rush, and she still had to get across town for her overnight shift at the hotel. The glamorous life of a 24-year-old with student loans and 2 younger brothers depending on her. Her phone buzzed. Finally. A text from her coworker Jenny. Uber's outside. Black sedan. Rosa spotted it immediately. A sleek black car idling at the curb, hazard lights blinking. Thank God. She yanked open the back door and threw herself inside, rainwater dripping from her ponytail onto the leather seat. Sorry. I'm soaked, she gasped, slamming the door. Can you believe this weather? I swear, this city's drainage system is from like 1920. She looked up. The man in the back seat was not a typical Uber driver. He wore a 3-piece charcoal suit that probably cost more than her rent. His dark hair was swept back perfectly, not a strand out of place despite the humidity. Sharp jawline, eyes like black coffee, and currently staring at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Next to him sat a leather briefcase with a monogrammed LDL in gold. The driver, an older man built like a refrigerator, had turned around in his seat, one hand suspiciously near his jacket. In the front passenger seat, another massive guy was doing the same thing. Rosa's stomach dropped. Oh my God, she grabbed the door handle. Oh my God, this isn't my Uber. No, the man in the suit said quietly. His voice was smooth, controlled. It's not. I'm so sorry, I thought, my friend said. There was a black car. Rosa was already halfway out the door when his next words stopped her. It's raining. She paused, one foot on the curb. What? It's raining, he repeated, gesturing to the downpour. You'll be soaked before you reach the corner. Rosa looked at him, then at the rain, then back at him. Was this a kidnapping? Were these guys going to? Marco, the man said to the driver. Take her wherever she needs to go. The driver's jaw actually dropped. Boss, we have the... It can wait. The man's tone didn't rise, but something in it made Marco swallow his objection. The lady needs a ride. Rosa should have run. Every true crime podcast she'd ever listened to screamed at her to run. But her feet hurt. She was already late, and something about the way he'd said the lady made her feel not threatened, which was probably exactly what Ted Bundy's victims thought. Still, it was really coming down out there. Just a Riverside and Fifth, she said hesitantly. Wherever you need. She pulled the door closed. The man with the briefcase, the boss, shifted slightly to give her more room, but the car was spacious enough that they weren't crowded. The interior smelled like leather and something expensive. Definitely not an Uber. Marco pulled into traffic without another word. The silence lasted maybe 5 seconds before Rosa's exhausted brain overrode her common sense. This is a really nice car, she said. What is this, a Mercedes? Maybach, the boss replied. A Wattbach. The corner of his mouth twitched. Almost a smile. German engineering. Rosa nodded like she knew what that meant. Well, it's really nice. Way better than the Uber I was supposed to get. That was probably going to be like a 2008 Honda Civic with a broken AC and Cheeto dust on the seats. She paused. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I drive a 2006 Toyota. Drove. It died last month. Now I take the bus. And walk. And mooch rides off friends. She was babbling. Why was she babbling? This man looked like he'd never taken a bus in his life. The bodyguard in the front seat glanced back at her like she'd grown a second head. But the boss was listening. Actually listening, his dark eyes fixed on her with an intensity that should have been uncomfortable but somehow wasn't. Long day, he asked. Long month, Rosa admitted, slumping back against the seat. But that's life, right? My mom used to say, Mija, nothing good comes easy, though I think she was talking about cooking tamales, not working 2 jobs. She glanced at him. What about you? Long day of whatever you do. Marco coughed. The other bodyguard went rigid. The boss's expression didn't change, but that almost smile deepened. Something like that. Let me guess, Rosa studied his suit, the briefcase, the whole vibe. Lawyer? No. Investment banker? No. Corporate? Something. You could say that. Rosa laughed. Mysterious. I like it. Better than the guys who come into the diner and immediately start telling me about their cryptocurrency investments. Like, sir, I'm just here to bring you pancakes. You work at Mel's? He asked. 5 nights a week. You know it. I've driven past. The car glided through the wet streets, smooth as butter. Rosa watched the city, lights blur through the rain-streaked windows. She should have been terrified. She'd gotten into a stranger's car. A clearly expensive, clearly powerful stranger's car. But something about him felt safe, controlled. Like nothing in this vehicle would happen without his permission. You have other family? He asked. Besides your mother? 2 little brothers. Well, not so little anymore. Carlos is 17. Miguel just turned 15. Mom died 3 years ago. Cancer. She said it matter-of-factly now, though it still hurt. So, it's just us. I'm trying to save up for a bakery someday. That's the dream. My own place, my own recipes. No more graveyard shifts. A bakery, he repeated, like he was considering it. What would you call it? Rosa's. Simple, right? Or maybe something in Spanish. La Rosa Dulce. The sweet rose, she grinned. Cheesy, I know. I think it sounds perfect. The car slowed. Rosa looked out to see her apartment building, a rundown complex that looked even worse in the rain. This is me, she said, surprised at how quickly they'd arrived. She grabbed her purse. Thank you so much. Seriously, you probably saved my life. I would have drowned out there. Wait, the boss reached into his pocket. Rosa tensed, but he just pulled out a business card. Plain, cream-colored, with a single phone number. No name. If you ever need a ride. Rosa took it, confused. Are you sure? I mean, I appreciate it, but I'm sure. Their eyes met. For a moment, something electric passed between them, a connection Rosa couldn't explain. Then she shook it off, stuffed the card in her pocket, and pushed open the door. Well, thanks again, mystery man. She ducked out into the rain, then turned back. Maybe I'll see you at Mel sometime. The door closed. The Maybach pulled away, disappearing into the night. Rosa stood there, rain-soaked and confused, wondering what the hell just happened. Inside the car, Lorenzo de Luca watched her building until it vanished from view. Boss, Marco said carefully. The Castellano meeting. Reschedule it. But I said reschedule it. Lorenzo picked up something from the seat, a cheap floral umbrella Rosa had left behind. He turned it over in his hands, studying the faded petals. For the first time in 5 years, Lorenzo de Luca smiled. A real smile. Rosa's alarm went off at 6 a.m. after exactly 3 hours of sleep. She groaned, slapped it silent, and stared at the water-stained ceiling of her bedroom. Her mind drifted back to last night's strange encounter. The mysterious man in the expensive suit. The bodyguards. The way he looked at her like she was something rare and breakable. She grabbed her phone and Googled Maybach car price. Her eyes bulged. $200,000? For a car? Who are you talking to? Her brother Carlos appeared in the doorway, already dressed for school. Nobody. Did you eat breakfast? Pop-Tarts, he studied her. You look weird. What happened? Nothing happened. I got a ride home from a stranger in a luxury car because I'm an idiot with terrible survival instincts. Carlos blinked. What? Never mind. Make sure Miguel brushes his teeth. By the time Rosa got to Mel's diner for the lunch shift, she'd almost convinced herself the whole thing had been a sleep-deprived fever dream. Then she reached for her umbrella in her bag and came up empty. No, no, no. She dumped everything out on the break room table. Wallet, keys, chapstick, a half-eaten granola bar, loose pennies. No umbrella. Lose something? Jenny asked, tying on her apron. My umbrella. The floral 1-inch. The one that's falling apart? It was my mom's, Jenny. Oh, Jenny's expression softened. Where'd you last have it? Rosa froze. In the car. The wrong car. The weird fancy car with the mysterious suit guy. The what now? Before Rosa could explain, Mel, the diner's owner and least patient human alive, stuck his head in. Martinez. Table 6 needs coffee. Today, preferably. Rosa shoved everything back in her bag and hustled onto the floor. The lunch rush hit like a tsunami, demanding customers, crying babies, someone's kid spilling an entire chocolate milkshake on the floor. By 2 p.m., Rosa had forgotten all about the umbrella. Then Marcus Chin walked in. Marcus didn't fit at Mel's diner. He wore a tailored black suit, moved with military precision, and had the kind of face that said he'd seen things, bad things, and done worse. Every conversation in the diner dropped about 3 decibels when he entered. He walked straight to Rosa. Rosa Martinez. Her heart hammered. Yes. He held out a package wrapped in brown paper. From a friend. He said you left this. Rosa took it carefully, like it might explode. Through the paper, she felt the familiar shape of her umbrella. Oh my God, she breathed. He sent it back. With a message, Marcus produced a small cream-colored envelope. Rosa turned it over. Her name was written on the front in dark, precise handwriting. She opened it with shaking fingers. Same time tonight. That was it. For words. No signature. She looked up, but Marcus was already halfway to the door. Wait, Rosa called. Who, I mean, what's his name? Marcus paused, considering. He'll tell you when he's ready. Then he was gone. Jenny materialized at Rosa's elbow. Girl, what the hell was that? I have no idea. Rosa stared at the note. The handwriting was elegant, old-fashioned. The kind of penmanship they didn't teach anymore. He wants to pick me up again tonight. The mystery car guy? Yeah. And you're thinking about going. It wasn't a question. Jenny knew her too well. It's just a ride, Rosa said weakly. Rosa. Men who send armed couriers to return umbrellas are not just anything. Jenny grabbed her shoulders. That guy looked like he kills people for a living. Don't be dramatic. I'm serious. Did you see his eyes? Dead. Like a shark. Rosa had seen them. But she'd also seen the careful way he'd handed her the umbrella, wrapped and protected. The fact that he'd bothered to return it at all. He's probably just eccentric, Rosa said. Rich people are weird. Rich people are dangerous. One ride. What's the worst that could happen? Jenny gave her a look that said literally everything but didn't push it. She knew Rosa well enough to know that once she made up her mind, there was no changing it. The rest of the shift crawled by. Rosa kept touching the note in her pocket, running her thumb over the embossed paper. At 9:45 p.m., she clocked out, changed out of her uniform, and stood outside Mel's diner in the cool night air. The street was quiet. A few cars passed. A homeless man pushed a shopping cart down the sidewalk. Rosa checked her phone. 9:58 p.m. Maybe he wouldn't show. Maybe it was a joke, or he'd changed his mind, or... Headlights cut through the darkness. The Maybach pulled up to the curb, smooth and silent as a panther. The back door opened. Inside, the mysterious man sat in the same spot, wearing a different suit, this one charcoal gray. He looked up from the document he'd been reading, and those dark eyes found hers. You came, he said. It wasn't a question, but Rosa nodded anyway. Thank you for returning my umbrella. It seemed important to you. Rosa slid into the car, her heart doing something complicated in her chest. The door closed. The Maybach pulled away from the curb. I don't even know your name, Rosa said. He was quiet for a moment, studying her face like he was memorizing it. Lorenzo. Lorenzo, she repeated. It fit him somehow. I'm Rosa. But you already knew that. I did. How? I have my ways, he paused. Where do you need to go tonight? Rosa should have said home. Should have thanked him and ended this before it became whatever this was becoming. Instead, she heard herself say, surprise me. For the second time, Lorenzo de Lucas smiled. And Rosa Martinez had no idea she'd just changed both their lives forever. The first week, Rosa told herself it was just convenience. Lorenzo appeared outside Mel's at 10 p.m. sharp every night she worked. Same car, same quiet presence, same unreadable expression that somehow made her feel safer than she'd felt in years. She accepted the rides because the bus was unreliable and her feet hurt, and it was practical. That's what she told Jenny, anyway. Practical, Jenny repeated flatly, watching through the diner window as Rosa slid into the Maybach on Thursday night. That's what we're calling mystery men in $250,000 cars now. Practical? But Rosa wasn't listening. She was already inside, breathing in the leather and something expensive smell, feeling the tension drain from her shoulders as the door closed on the world outside. Long shift? Lorenzo asked. He always started with that question. Mrs. Patterson came in, Rosa said, buckling her seatbelt. She's 93 and tips in butterscotch candies from 1987. But she tells the best stories about her late husband. They were married 62 years, Lorenzo. 62. Can you imagine loving someone that long? No, he said quietly. I can't. Something in his voice made Rosa look at him. Really look at him. In the dim light of the car, he looked tired. Not physically, his suit was still perfect, his posture still controlled, but there was something worn in his eyes. Bad day, she asked. Better now. The simplicity of it hit her somewhere in the chest. Marco drove them through the city, taking the long way to her apartment. Rosa had noticed that the routes were getting longer each night, but she didn't mention it. Neither did Lorenzo. Carlos got in trouble at school today, Rosa said, filling the comfortable silence. Got caught skipping gym class to study in the library. The vice principal called it concerning behavior. I told her my little brother wanting to study was the least concerning thing happening in that school, and maybe they should focus on the kids vaping in the bathroom. Lorenzo's mouth quirked. What did she say to that? That I had an attitude problem, which is fair, Rosa grinned. I definitely have an attitude problem. It comes from raising 2 teenage boys on coffee and hope. You're doing it alone. Yeah. Dad left when Miguel was 2. Mom tried. But the cancer, Rosa shrugged. So now it's me. Some days I'm a sister. Some days I'm a mom. Most days I'm just trying not to let them see how scared I am that I'm screwing everything up. You're not. You don't know that. Yes, Lorenzo said, turning to face her fully. I do. The certainty in his voice silenced her. How could this man, this stranger she'd known for barely a week, sound so sure about her life? Tell me about the bakery, he said, changing the subject before she could overthink it. So Rosa told him about her mother's recipes, written in Spanish in a notebook with a water-stained cover. About the tres leches cake that Carlos begged for every birthday. About her dream of a small shop with yellow walls and flowers in the window, where people could come and feel like someone cared about them. Lorenzo listened the way nobody else did. Not interrupting, not checking his phone, not waiting for his turn to talk. He just absorbed every word like it mattered. What about you? Rosa asked as they pulled up to her building on night 6. What do you do when you're not giving rides to disaster waitresses? I manage things. What kind of things? Complicated things, he paused. Dangerous things. Rosa should have pressed. Should have demanded a real answer. But something in the way he said dangerous told her she wasn't ready for the truth yet. Will you tell me someday? She asked instead. Perhaps. By the second week, Rosa stopped pretending it was about convenience. She found herself checking her reflection in the diner bathroom before her shift ended, putting on chapstick, making sure her hair wasn't completely destroyed by 8 hours of running food. You're falling for him, Jenny said, not unkindly. I barely know him. That's not a no. It wasn't. Lorenzo started bringing things. Small things. A coffee that appeared in the cup holder, made exactly how she liked it even though she never told him. A heating pad one night when she mentioned her back hurt. A book on running a small business, with certain passages underlined in that same precise handwriting from the note. He never made a big deal of any of it. Just handed them over with a slight nod, like it was nothing. But it wasn't nothing to Rosa. On night 11, after she'd spent 20 minutes venting about a customer who'd yelled at her over slightly burnt toast, Lorenzo did something unexpected. He took off his suit jacket and handed it to her. "You're cold," he said simply. Rosa looked down. She hadn't even realized she was shivering. She took the jacket, warm from his body, smelling like cedar and something uniquely him, and pulled it around her shoulders. "Thank you." Rosa, her name sounded different in his voice. Softer. "These drives. They're the best part of my day." She looked up at him, startled by the honesty in his face. "Mine too," she admitted. The car stopped in front of her building. Neither of them moved. "Same time tomorrow?" Lorenzo asked. Rosa smiled. "Yeah, same time tomorrow." She got out, still wearing his jacket, and walked to her door. When she looked back, the Maybach was still there, waiting until she was safely inside. Inside the car, Lorenzo watched her window light up 3 floors above. "Boss," Marco said carefully, "this is getting—" "I know. The others are talking. Let them talk." Lorenzo didn't care what they said. For 10 days, he'd found something he didn't know he was missing. Someone who saw him as just a man. Not a name. Not a reputation. Just Lorenzo. And God help him, he wasn't ready to give that up. Not yet. "Okay, spill." Rosa looked up from refilling the salt shakers to find Jenny, Marcus the line cook, and Deb from the night shift all staring at her with identical expressions. "Spill what?" "The car guy," Deb said, sliding into the booth. "It's been 2 weeks. Every single night you work, that same fancy car shows up at exactly 10 o'clock. Who is he?" "A friend." "A friend," Marcus repeated, not buying it for a second. "A friend with a car worth more than this entire diner? He's just nice. He gives me rides home." "For free?" Jenny's eyebrows shot up. "Rosa, nobody does that for free. Especially not men who look like they own half the city." "Maybe he's just a good person. Good people drive Hondas and wear normal suits," Deb said. "That man looks like he stepped out of a Mafia movie. The fancy kind where everyone dies in Italian leather." Rosa laughed, but it sounded hollow even to her own ears. "You guys watch too much TV." But that night, as she walked out to find Lorenzo's car waiting in its usual spot, Deb's words echoed in her head. The way the other cars seemed to give the Maybach space. The way people on the sidewalk looked twice, then quickly looked away. "Everything all right?" Lorenzo asked as she settled in. "Yeah, just tired," Rosa forced a smile. "How was your day?" "Productive," he studied her face. "You're quieter than usual." "Just thinking." About how little I actually know about you." Lorenzo went still. "What do you want to know?" "Everything," Rosa thought. "Your last name. Where you live. Why a man like you spends his evenings driving a waitress around. Why your eyes sometimes look so sad." "What's your favorite color?" she asked instead. He blinked, clearly not expecting that. "I don't think anyone's asked me that in 20 years. "So, what is it?" Lorenzo considered. "Green. Like the trees in Riverside Park in spring." "That's actually really specific." You asked, the corner of his mouth lifted. "What's yours?" "Yellow. Like sunshine. Like the walls in my imaginary bakery." They smiled at each other, and the weird tension melted away. But Jenny wasn't letting it go. "I'm worried about you," she said 2 days later, cornering Rosa in the break room. "That car, Rosa. It's not normal. Nothing about this is normal. Since when is getting a ride home a crime?" "It's not about the rides. It's about who's giving them." Jenny lowered her voice. I asked my boyfriend to look into it. He's a cop, remember? He said cars like that in this neighborhood usually belong to one type of person. What type? The type you don't want to get involved with. Rosa's stomach twisted. Did he find out anything specific?
No.
But Rosa, that almost makes it worse. Like whoever this guy is, he's powerful enough to not leave a trail. Jenny grabbed her hand.
Please.
Just be careful. I don't want to see you get hurt. Lorenzo wouldn't hurt me. How do you know? Rosa didn't have an answer for that. She just
knew.
In the same way she knew when bread was perfectly baked or when Carlos was lying about his homework. Some things you felt in your bones. That night, Miguel had a fever. Rosa called Lorenzo from the apartment, something she'd never done before. I can't make it tonight. My brother's sick. Do you need anything? Medicine? A doctor? No, we're okay. It's just a cold. But I should stay with him. There was a pause. I understand. Take care of him. Lorenzo? Yes. Thank you. For understanding. After she hung up, Carlos appeared in the doorway. Was that the car guy? His name is Lorenzo. What does he do? He manages things. What kind of things? Rosa sighed. I don't know, Carlos. Her brother, too smart for his own good, gave her a look. Don't you think you should find out? Before you get in too deep? I'm not in too deep. Rosa. You smile at your phone now. You do your hair before work. Last week, you used the fancy soap. Carlos crossed his arms. You're in way too deep. 20 minutes later, the doorbell rang. Rosa opened it to find Marcus, Lorenzo's driver, holding a pharmacy bag and a container of homemade soup. Boss said your brother's sick, Marcus said gruffly. This is from his chef. And the medicine. He handed everything over, then paused. He's a good man, Miss Martinez. Better than most people think. But my advice? Ask him directly. About everything. He'll tell you the truth if you ask. Then he was gone. Rosa stared at the soup, still warm, clearly made from scratch, and felt something shift in her chest. Who was that? Miguel called from the couch. Nobody, Rosa said softly. Just a friend. But as she heated up the soup and watched her brothers eat it gratefully, she couldn't stop thinking about Marcus's words. Ask him directly. He'll tell you the truth. The truth about what? At Mel's the next night, a customer named Frank, a regular who usually kept to himself, lingered after paying his bill. You should be careful, sweetheart, he said quietly, nodding toward the window where the Maybach had just pulled up. That's Lorenzo De Luca's car. And trust me, you don't want to be involved with the De Luca family. Rosa's blood went cold. What? But Frank was already walking away, leaving her staring at the car like she'd never seen it before. De Luca. She grabbed her phone with shaking hands and typed the name into Google. The results loaded, and Rosa's entire world tilted sideways. The Google results painted a picture Rosa wasn't ready to see. Lorenzo De Luca, alleged head of the De Luca crime family. Federal investigation into De Luca organization. De Luca acquitted in racketeering case. Witness recants testimony. There were photos. Lorenzo in a courthouse, surrounded by lawyers. Lorenzo at a charity gala, looking exactly like he did in the car, untouchable, powerful. Lorenzo's face partially obscured as he left what the caption called a known organized crime meeting location. Rosa's hands shook so badly, she nearly dropped her phone. Mafia. Lorenzo was in the actual Mafia. She'd been getting into a car with a mobster for 2 weeks. Laughing with him. Sharing her dreams with him. Wearing his jacket. No, 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 she whispered. Outside, the Maybach waited. Rosa looked at Jenny, who was watching her with concern. I can't go out there. What happened? I need you to tell him I'm sick. Please. Rosa. Please, Jenny. Jenny studied her face, then nodded slowly. She walked outside, approached the car. Rosa watched from the window as Jenny spoke to Lorenzo. Even from a distance, she could see him tense. He looked toward the diner, and Rosa ducked back from the window like a coward. The Maybach didn't move for 5 full minutes. Then, finally, it pulled away. Rosa avoided him for 3 days. She took the bus, even though it added an hour to her commute. She left through the back door of the diner. She ignored the text that came from the number on his business card. "Are you all right?" She wasn't all right. She was terrified and confused and angry, mostly at herself for being stupid enough to think a man like that could be interested in someone like her for any good reason. "You look terrible," Carlos said on the third night, finding her staring blankly at her mother's recipe book. "Thanks. Is it the car guy?" Rosa nodded miserably. "What did he do?" "He lied to me." "Sort of. He didn't tell me who he really was." "Who is he?" Rosa looked at her 17-year-old brother, still so young, still believing the world was mostly good, and couldn't bring herself to say it. "Someone dangerous." "Did he hurt you?" "No." "Did he threaten you?" "No." "Then maybe," Carlos said carefully, "you should let him explain." "There's nothing to explain. He's a criminal, Carlos. So are half the guys at my school. So is Miguel's friend Danny, who stole a car last year. So is Mrs. Chin downstairs, who runs an unlicensed gambling operation out of her apartment." Carlos shrugged. "Doesn't mean they're all bad people." "This is different." "Is it? Or are you just scared?" Rosa hated that he was right. On the 4th night, she returned to work determined to take the bus again. But when her shift ended and she walked out the back door, Lorenzo was there. Not in the car. Standing in the alley, hands in his pockets, looking more human than she'd ever seen him. His suit jacket was unbuttoned, his tie slightly loosened. He looked tired.
"Rosa."
She froze. "How did you know I'd come out this way?" "I know all your exits now." He took a step closer, then stopped when she tensed. "You've been avoiding me."
"Yeah."
"I have. Because you know who I am." It wasn't a question.
Rosa nodded anyway.
Lorenzo exhaled slowly. I wondered how long it would take. Part of me hoped. He shook his head. "It doesn't matter what I hoped. You lied to me."
"No."
"I never lied. I just didn't volunteer information you didn't ask for." "That's the same thing." "Is it?" Lorenzo's voice was calm, controlled, but she could hear something underneath it. Pain, maybe. Or regret. "You asked what I did. I said I managed complicated, dangerous things. That was true. You know what I meant. You knew what I was asking." "Yes," he stepped closer. "And I knew that the moment you learned the truth, this would happen. You'd look at me differently. You'd see the name instead of the man. Because the name matters, Lorenzo. You run." Rosa struggled to say it. "The Mafia. You're in the actual Mafia." "Yes." The simple confirmation hit harder than she expected. "People must be afraid of you," she said. "Yes. You probably hurt people. Maybe even kill people." Lorenzo didn't answer that one, which was an answer in itself. Rosa wrapped her arms around herself. "Why me? Why did you keep picking me up? Was it some kind of game? Powerful mob boss toys with clueless waitress?" "No," the word came out sharp, almost angry. "Never that." "Then what?" "Because you weren't afraid." Lorenzo moved closer, close enough that she could see the intensity in his dark eyes. "You got in my car, and you just
talked.
Like I was normal. Like I was just a man. Do you know how long it's been since someone treated me like just a man?" Rosa's throat tightened. "Everyone in my world wants something," Lorenzo continued. "Power, money, protection, favor. Everyone is afraid or calculating or both. And then you stumbled into my car complaining about rude customers and bad drainage systems, and for the first time in years, I could just breathe." "That's not fair," Rosa whispered. "You can't say things like that. It's the truth. You asked for truth. The truth is you're dangerous. The truth is people around you probably get hurt. The truth is I have 2 little brothers depending on me and I can't." Her voice broke. "I can't be part of your world, Lorenzo. I can't." He absorbed that like a physical blow, but his expression didn't change. "I understand." "That's it? You understand. What do you want me to say, Rosa? That I'll change?" That I'll walk away from everything I am? Lorenzo's jaw tightened. I won't lie to you. Not about this. My world is dangerous. Being close to me is dangerous. You're right to walk away. Then why are you here? Because I needed you to know it wasn't a game. What I feel. He stopped, composed himself. You weren't a distraction. You were real. The only real thing in my life. Rosa felt tears burning behind her eyes. This would be so much easier if she didn't believe him. I have to go, she said. Lorenzo nodded. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a card, different from the first one. This one had a name, DeLuca Security Services, and a personal note in that precise handwriting, if you ever need anything.
Nostrines.
Rosa took it with shaking hands. I'll make sure you get home safely, Lorenzo said. Always. You won't see me, but I'll make sure. Then he walked away, back to his car waiting at the end of the alley. Rosa stood there long after the Maybach disappeared, holding the card and crying for something that never really had a chance to begin. Vincenzo Romano had been Lorenzo de Luca's consigliere for 12 years. In that time, he'd seen his boss negotiate multi-million-dollar deals without blinking, stare down federal prosecutors, and order hits with the same casual tone most people use to order coffee. He had never seen Lorenzo stare at a floral umbrella like it held the secrets of the universe. Boss, Vincenzo said carefully, standing in the doorway of Lorenzo's office. We need to talk. Lorenzo didn't look up from the umbrella on his desk. About the waitress. Now Lorenzo looked up, his expression dangerous. Her name is Rosa.
Fine.
Rosa, Vincenzo stepped inside, closing the door. The men are talking. You've been picking her up every night for 2 weeks, then spent the last 4 days having Marco tail her bus routes to make sure she gets home safe. This isn't. Isn't what? Isn't you? Vincenzo sat down uninvited. Lorenzo, in the 12 years I've known you, I've never seen you show interest in a woman. Not once. You've built walls so high around yourself that even your own family can't get through. And now you're risking exposure for a girl who doesn't even know what fork to use at a 5-star restaurant. Watch yourself, Lorenzo said quietly. But Vincenzo pressed on. He was one of the few people who could. She walked away from you. 4 nights ago, in that alley, she made it clear she wants nothing to do with this life. With you. And yet you're still having her followed, still making sure she's protected. Why? Because the Castellano family has eyes everywhere. Because word is spreading that I showed interest in a civilian. Because every enemy I've made in the last decade will see her as leverage. Lorenzo's voice was cold, controlled. So, yes, I'm having her followed. I'm making sure she's safe. That's not negotiable. Then you're proving my point. You exposed her to danger just by being near her. Lorenzo stood abruptly, walking to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Somewhere out there, Rosa was finishing her shift, taking the bus home, living her life. Without him. I know, he said finally. I know I put her at risk. That's why I let her go. Did you? Vincenzo's tone was gentle now. Because from where I'm standing, you're holding on tighter than ever. Just from a distance. Lorenzo didn't respond. What is it about her? Vincenzo asked.
Help me understand.
She's pretty, sure, but you've had models and heiresses throw themselves at you. What makes this waitress different? She saw me. Lorenzo turned from the window. Not the name, not the reputation, not the power.
Just me.
She got in my car and complained about her feet hurting. She told me about her dreams. She fell asleep one night with her head against the window, completely trusting that I'd get her home safely. His voice roughened. When was the last time anyone trusted me like that, Vin? Vincenzo was quiet for a long moment. Not everyone gets to have that kind of life, Lorenzo. Men like us, we made our choices a long time ago. I know. Then you need to let her go. Really let her go. Pull the protection detail. Stop watching her building. Move on. I can't. Why not? Because I love her. The words hung in the air between them. Lorenzo looked as shocked as Vincenzo felt, like he'd just realized the truth, by saying it out loud. Cristo, Vincenzo breathed. You're in love with her. Lorenzo returned to his desk, sinking into his chair.
He looked exhausted.
It doesn't matter. She's right to stay away. I'm poison to anyone who gets close. You're not wrong about that, Vincenzo leaned forward. But if you really love her, you'll do more than just keep your distance. You'll make sure no one else in our world ever knows her name. The Castellanos already suspect you have a weakness. If they confirm it's her, they won't. You better hope you're right. Because if they grab her, if they use her to get to you, you'll start a war. And wars have casualties, Vincenzo stood. You want to protect her? Then make her invisible. No more watching from afar. No more protection details. Nothing that draws attention. After Vincenzo left, Lorenzo sat alone in his office as the city lights blinked on one by one. He picked up his phone, pulled up the text thread with Rosa. The last message, "Are you all right?" still showed as unread. He typed, "I understand why you walked away. I'm sorry for bringing my world to your doorstep. You'll never hear from me again." His thumb hovered over send. Instead, he deleted it. Because Vincenzo was right about one thing. Lorenzo couldn't protect Rosa if he couldn't watch her. And he couldn't watch her if he made himself completely disappear. He opened his laptop and pulled up the security feeds, cameras his men had discreetly positioned around Rosa's building, the diner, her bus stops. Nothing invasive. Just enough to know if trouble came her way. There she was on the screen, walking out of Mel's diner's back door. She looked tired, sad, even. She glanced once toward where his car used to wait, then shook her head and walked toward the bus stop. Lorenzo's chest tightened. "I'm sorry," he whispered to the screen. "I'm sorry I can't be what you need." His phone buzzed. A text from Marco. Castellano's nephew was spotted near the diner today. Looked like he was casing it. Lorenzo's blood went cold. He typed back, "Double the surveillance. But stay invisible. She can't know. Boss, if the Castellanos are moving." "I know. I'll handle it." But as Lorenzo stared at Rosa's image on the screen, watching her stand alone at the bus stop, hugging herself against the cold, he wondered if handling it would be enough. Because Vincenzo was wrong about one thing. Lorenzo had built walls around his heart, yes. But Rosa Martinez had walked through them like they were made of paper. And now, whether she wanted it or not, she was part of his world. The only question was whether he could keep her alive in it. 3 weeks passed. Rosa fell into a new routine. Work, bus, home, sleep, repeat. No more late-night drives. No more easy conversations. No more feeling like someone actually understood her. She told herself it was better this way. Safer. She almost believed it. "You're doing that thing again," Jenny said, wiping down the counter beside her. "What thing?" "That sad, distant thing. Where you pretend you're fine, but you're clearly not fine." Rosa forced a smile. "I'm fine. You've been fine for 3 weeks. It's getting old," Jenny softened. "Look, I know you did the right thing walking away from that guy. But you're allowed to miss him." "I don't miss him, Rosa. I don't miss someone I barely knew." But that was a lie. She missed everything about him. The way he listened. The sound of her name in his voice. The safety she felt in that car, even knowing what she knew now. What she didn't realize was that Lorenzo's protection hadn't stopped. She didn't notice the black sedan that followed her bus route every night. Didn't see Marco stationed across from her building. Didn't catch the way certain men seemed to appear whenever she walked alone at night. Always at a distance. Always watching. What she did notice were other things. The man in the dark jacket who stood outside the diner for too long, watching through the window. The car that drove past her apartment 3 times in 1 hour. The feeling of eyes on her back when she walked home. At first, she dismissed it as paranoia, a side effect of knowing too much about Lorenzo's world. Then Carlos noticed too. "Rosa," he said one night, looking out their apartment window. "There's a guy across the street. He's been there for like 20 minutes. Rosa joined him, peering down. A man in a leather jacket leaned against a lamppost, smoking. As she watched, he looked up at their building. Not at any window in particular.
Just
Looking. Probably waiting for someone, Rosa said, but her heart hammered. He's not waiting. He's watching.
Carlos was right.
And the next night, there was a different man. Same stance, same surveillance, different face. Rosa's hands shook as she pulled out the card Lorenzo had given her, the one she'd sworn she'd never use. She stared at the number. No strings, he'd written. But everything with Lorenzo came with strings. That was the problem. She put the card away. At the diner 2 nights later, Rosa was refilling coffee when she heard it, a conversation from the booth behind her. DeLuca's gone soft. Did you hear? Got himself distracted by some nobody. Castellano's boys are loving it. They're circling, waiting for an opening. Rosa's blood ran cold. She glanced over. 2 men in expensive suits, speaking quietly, but not quietly enough. They didn't even glance her way. What's the girl's name?
Danelle.
But word is she works somewhere around here. Rosa nearly dropped the coffee pot. She moved away quickly, her pulse racing. They were talking about her. They had to be. You okay? Mel asked, catching her in the kitchen. You look like you've seen a ghost.
I've seen.
Just tired. But she wasn't fine. Someone was watching her building. People were talking about Lorenzo being distracted by a girl. This couldn't be coincidence. That night, as Rosa locked up the diner through the back door, she felt it again, that crawling sensation of being watched. She spun around, scanning the dark alley. Nothing. Just shadows and dumpsters and the distant sound of traffic. She walked quickly toward the street, her keys clutched between her fingers like a weapon. A figure stepped out from behind a corner, and Rosa's scream caught in her throat. Easy, miss, it was Marcus, Lorenzo's driver. He held up his hands. I'm not here to hurt you. What are you doing here? Rosa demanded, even as relief flooded through her. Lorenzo said, Boss doesn't know I'm here. Marcus glanced around, his expression tense. You're being watched. Not by us. By people who want to hurt the boss. That's not my problem. It became your problem the moment they decided you were his weakness. Marcus stepped closer, lowering his voice. They're planning something. I don't know what yet, but you need to be careful. Don't walk alone. Don't take routes you don't have to. And for God's sake, if anyone approaches you, run. Why are you telling me this? If Lorenzo doesn't even know you're here. Because I've worked for Lorenzo DeLuca for 8 years. He's a hard man, sometimes a cruel man, but he's fair. And I've never seen him care about anyone the way he cares about you. Marcus pulled out a phone, a basic flip phone, not a smartphone.
Take this.
It has 1 number programmed. You see anything suspicious, you call it. It goes straight to me, and I'll have men there in under 3 minutes. Rosa stared at the phone. I can't. I walked away from all of this. You walked away from him. You didn't walk away from the target on your back. Marcus pressed the phone into her hand.
Please. Just take it.
You don't have to call him. But let us keep you safe. Before Rosa could respond, Marcus was gone, disappearing into the shadows like he'd never been there. Rosa stood alone in the alley, holding the phone, and finally understood the truth. Walking away from Lorenzo hadn't freed her from his world. It had just left her unprotected in it. She went home, checking over her shoulder the entire way. The phone felt heavy in her pocket. As she climbed the stairs to her apartment, she noticed something that made her stomach drop. The door was slightly ajar. She always locked it. Always. Rosa pushed it open slowly. Carlos?
Miguel?
In here. Carlos called from the living room, sounding normal. Rosa exhaled in relief and walked in, then froze. A man sat on their couch. Young, expensive suit, cruel smile. Carlos and Miguel sat across from him, tension radiating from every line of their bodies. Rosa Martinez, the man said pleasantly. We need to talk about Lorenzo DeLuca. Rosa's hand went to the phone in her pocket. And she realized, too late, that she'd been right to be afraid. Get out of my house, Rosa said, her voice shaking but firm. The man on her couch, mid-20s, slicked back hair, a scar running through his left eyebrow, smiled wider. Now that's not very hospitable. Your brothers here were just telling me about school. Miguel's quite good at basketball, isn't he? Carlos stood abruptly. Don't talk to him. Don't talk about him. Sit down, the man said, and something in his voice made Carlos sink back slowly. Rosa's hand closed around the phone in her pocket. 3 minutes, Marcus had said. She just needed 3 minutes. What do you want? She asked. Information. About Lorenzo de Luca, the man leaned back, utterly relaxed. See, there's a rumor going around that our dear Lorenzo has developed a soft spot. That he's been spending his evenings with a certain waitress. Playing pretend at being normal. I don't know what you're talking about. Really? Because my sources say a black Maybach was parked outside Mel's diner every night for 2 weeks. Lorenzo's personal car. His driver. His time, the man's eyes glittered. That doesn't sound like nothing to me. Rosa's mind raced. She needed to get her brothers out. Needed to. I gave him a ride once, she said. Wrong car, mistaken identity. That's it. I haven't seen him in weeks. Liar, the man stood up, and Rosa saw the gun tucked into his waistband. Tony Castellano doesn't send me to houses on maybes. You're something to De Luca. And that makes you valuable. Rosa's thumb found the phone's button. She pressed it without looking, praying it worked. Leave them alone, she said, stepping between the man and her brothers. They're kids. They have nothing to do with this. That's where you're wrong, sweetheart. They have everything to do with this. Their leverage. He pulled out his own phone. See, I'm going to call Lorenzo. And I'm going to tell him I have his little waitress and her baby brothers. And then we're going to see just how soft he's gotten. You're making a mistake, Rosa said. The only mistake here was De Luca thinking he could protect you without starting a war. The man dialed. Put the phone on speaker. It rang once.
Twice.
Who is this? Lorenzo's voice filled the apartment. Cold, deadly calm. Hey there, De Luca. Name's Danny Castellano. I'm at 2847 Riverside, apartment 3C. And I've got something that belongs to you. Silence. Then, if you've touched her, she's fine.
For now.
But that could change real quick. Danny smiled at Rosa. Want to say hi to your boyfriend, honey? Rosa's voice came out steadier than she felt. Lorenzo, don't. Whatever he wants, don't. Rosa, just her name, but she heard everything underneath it. Relief.
Fear. Rage.
Are your brothers there? Yes. Listen to me very carefully. Whatever happens, get behind the kitchen counter. Do you understand? Lorenzo. Behind the counter, Rosa.
Now.
Danny laughed. Giving orders? That's cute. But here's how this works. You've got 30 minutes to. The apartment door exploded inward. Everything happened at once. Men in black tactical gear flooded in, 4, 5, 6 of them. Danny went for his gun, but someone tackled him to the ground before he could draw. Carlos yanked Miguel down. And Rosa, operating on instinct and Lorenzo's command, dove behind the kitchen counter, pulling her brothers with her. Gunshots. Breaking glass.
Shouting.
Then silence. Rosa lifted her head slowly. Danny Castellano lay on the floor, zip-tied and bloodied, 3 guns pointed at his head. The tactical team secured the apartment with professional efficiency. And in the doorway stood Lorenzo. He wasn't wearing a suit, just dark jeans, a black shirt, a bulletproof vest. He looked like someone from an action movie, dangerous and lethal and completely in control. His eyes scanned the room until they found Rosa. Then he was moving, crossing to her in 3 strides, pulling her up and into his arms before she could think. You're okay, he said against her hair. You're okay. Rosa was shaking. How did you? The phone. It's only been 2 minutes. I was already on my way when Marcus called. Lorenzo pulled back, checking her for injuries. I've had men watching your building since you walked away. When Castellano's crew showed up, they alerted me. You've been watching me this whole time? Yes. The simple admission should have made her angry. Instead, she just felt exhausted. You can't keep doing this. You can't keep. I know, Lorenzo's jaw tightened. He looked at Carlos and Miguel, huddled together. Get them out of here.
Safe house on 5th.
Full security detail. Wait, what? Rosa grabbed his arm.
No.
You can't just take my brothers. They're not safe here anymore. Neither are you, Lorenzo met her eyes. Tony Castellano just declared war by sending his nephew to your home. This doesn't end until one of us is dead. And I won't risk you or them being caught in it. This is insane. This is... Rosa's voice broke. This is exactly why I walked away. I know, Lorenzo's expression softened. And you were right too. But walking away didn't make you invisible, Rosa. It just made you unprotected. Marcus appeared in the doorway. Boss, we need to move. Cops are 5 minutes out. Lorenzo nodded, then looked back at Rosa. I need you to trust me one more time. Let me get you somewhere safe. After that, if you never want to see me again, I'll disappear. I swear it. Rosa looked at her brothers, terrified and confused. At the man zip-tied on her floor. At the bullet hole in her living room wall. Her normal life was gone. Shattered. And it was never coming back. Okay, she whispered. Okay. Lorenzo's hand found hers, warm and solid and real. I've got you, he said. I promise. As his men efficiently cleared the scene and led them out through the back stairwell, Rosa realized something that should have terrified her, but somehow didn't. She believed him. God help her, she believed him. The safe house was in a neighborhood Rosa had never been to, tree-lined streets, historic brownstones, the kind of place where people had alarm systems and gardeners. Lorenzo's men ushered them into a 3-story building that looked ordinary from the outside but had steel-reinforced doors and cameras at every angle. Inside, it was surprisingly warm. Comfortable furniture, a stocked kitchen, bedrooms upstairs. This is where you're staying, Lorenzo said, watching Rosa take it in. My men will be outside, rotating shifts. You'll be safe here. Carlos and Miguel stood close together, still processing everything that had happened. Miguel hadn't said a word since the apartment. Hey. Rosa knelt in front of her youngest brother. You okay? Miguel nodded, but his eyes were too wide. Traumatized. I'm calling Aunt Patricia, Carlos said, pulling out his phone. She needs to know. No, Lorenzo's voice was firm, but not unkind. No outside contact for now. The Castellanos could trace calls, track locations. I know it's hard, but for the next few days, you're ghosts. We have school, Carlos protested. I have a calc test on Friday. Miguel has basketball. I'll have your assignments sent here. You'll take your test remotely if needed. Lorenzo met the teenager's defiant stare with patience. I know you're angry. You have every right to be. But your sister's life, all your lives, depend on you staying hidden until this is resolved. Resolved how? Carlos demanded. Are you going to kill them? Carlos. Rosa gasped. But Lorenzo didn't flinch. I'm going to end the threat. How I do that isn't your concern. It is when you've dragged us into it. You're right, Lorenzo's admission surprised everyone. This is my fault. I got close to your sister, knowing what it could cost. That's on me. But I'm not going to compound that mistake by leaving you unprotected. Carlos looked like he wanted to argue more, but Miguel tugged his sleeve. I'm tired, the younger boy said quietly. Rosa stood. Come on. Let's find you guys a room. She led her brothers upstairs, getting them settled in a bedroom with 2 twin beds. Carlos was still bristling with anger, but Miguel just looked exhausted. Rosa tucked him in like she used to when he was little. Rosa? Miguel whispered. Are we going to be okay? She smoothed his hair back. Yes, baby. I promise. Do you trust him? The guy downstairs. Did she? Rosa thought about Lorenzo's face when he'd burst through the door. The raw fear she'd seen before relief took over. The way he'd held her like she was something precious. Yeah, she said. I do. After her brothers fell asleep, Rosa went back downstairs. Lorenzo stood by the window, phone pressed to his ear, speaking in rapid Italian. When he saw her, he ended the call. They're sleeping, he asked. Miguel is. Carlos is probably planning ways to escape and call the cops. Rosa wrapped her arms around herself. This is real now. All of it. I'm sorry. Stop apologizing. Rosa moved closer. I need you to tell me the truth. All of it. What happens next? How does this end? Lorenzo gestured to the couch. They sat, careful to leave space between them. The Castellanos have been trying to move into my territory for years, he began. Drugs, protection rackets, gambling. I've kept them out, but it's made their boss, Tony Castellano, look weak to other families. He's been looking for leverage, a way to force my hand. And I'm that leverage. You were supposed to be, but Danny made a mistake tonight. He called me before securing you properly, gave me time to respond. Now Tony knows I care enough to start a war over you. Lorenzo's jaw tightened. Which means he'll either back off or escalate. My money's on escalate. So what do we do?
We?
There is no we in this, Rosa. You stay here, stay safe. I handle Tony. Handle him how? Lorenzo looked at her for a long moment. Do you really want to know?
She thought about it.
About the life he led, the things he must have done to survive in his world. Part of her wanted to stay ignorant, to preserve some innocence. But that luxury was gone now. Yes, she said. I want to know. I'm going to offer him a deal first. Territory concessions in exchange for leaving you alone. If he refuses, Lorenzo's expression went cold, dangerous. Then I'm going to eliminate him and everyone loyal to him.
Completely.
Permanently. Rosa should have been horrified. Should have recoiled from the casual way he discussed murder. But all she felt was a strange, terrible relief that someone that dangerous was on her side. How long will it take? She asked. Days. Maybe a week. And then you're free. You and your brothers go back to your lives. I disappear from it. What if I don't want that? The question hung between them. Lorenzo turned to her fully, surprise clear on his face.
Rosa.
I spent 3 weeks trying to forget you, she said. Trying to convince myself I was better off. And maybe I was. Maybe the smart thing, the safe thing, is to walk away and never look back. She met his eyes. But when Danny had a gun in my apartment and I thought he might hurt my brothers, you know what I did? I called you. Without hesitation. Because I knew you'd come. That doesn't mean... Let me finish. Rosa took a shaky breath. I'm not stupid. I know what you are. I know the life you lead is dangerous and complicated and probably illegal in 17 different ways. But I also know that when you look at me, I feel seen. Really seen. And I haven't felt that since my mom died. Lorenzo reached for her hand, hesitated, then took it anyway. His thumb traced circles on her palm. You deserve better than this life, he said quietly. Maybe. But maybe I get to decide what I deserve. Rosa squeezed his hand. I'm not asking for promises or commitment or anything. After this is over, I don't want you to disappear. I want a chance to figure out what this could be. If we're both still standing. Lorenzo corrected. When we're both still standing. He lifted her hand to his lips and kissed her knuckles, a gesture so old-fashioned and tender that Rosa's heart stumbled. I'll end this, he promised. And then we'll figure it out. Together. Upstairs, a door opened. Carlos stood at the top of the stairs, watching them. You really care about her, he said to Lorenzo. Not a question. More than anything. Carlos studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Don't make me regret not calling the cops. I won't. As Carlos disappeared back into the bedroom, Rosa leaned against Lorenzo's shoulder. For the first time in hours, she felt like she could breathe. We're going to be okay, she whispered. Lorenzo wrapped an arm around her, holding her close.
Yes.
We are. Outside, in the darkness, Lorenzo's men stood watch. And across the city, Tony Castellano planned his next move. The war was just beginning. 4 days in the safe house felt like 4 years. Rosa paced the living room for the 100th time, restless energy coursing through her. Carlos and Miguel were upstairs doing homework sent by their teachers. Lorenzo had left that morning for a meeting which she'd learned was code for something dangerous, and hadn't returned. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jenny. "Where are you?" "Mel's freaking out. Says you abandoned your job." Rosa's stomach twisted. In the chaos of everything, she'd forgotten to call the diner. Forgotten that she had a life, responsibilities, outside of this nightmare. She texted back. "Family emergency. I'll explain when I can." Another text came through, this one from her landlord. "Rent was due 3 days ago. Pay by tomorrow, or I'm starting eviction proceedings." No, no, no. Rosa pressed her hands to her temples.
The rent.
She'd completely forgotten. All her money was in her account, but she needed to physically go to the building, talk to Mr. Peterson, explain. "Everything okay?" Marcus appeared in the doorway. He'd been assigned as their primary guard. "I need to go to my apartment. Just for an hour. My landlord is going to evict us if I don't." "Can't do it, miss. Boss's orders. Nobody leaves until he gives the all clear." "Marcus, please. I have rent due. I need to get some of our clothes, Miguel's medicine for his allergies." Rosa heard the desperation in her own voice. 1 hour. "You can come with me. I'll be safe." Marcus shook his head. "Boss would kill me." "Then don't tell him. We go, we come back, nobody knows." "I'll know. And I like breathing." Rosa wanted to scream. This was her life falling apart. Her apartment, her job, her entire existence, and she was trapped here while Lorenzo fought his war. That night, after Marcus's shift change, she made a decision. At 11 p.m., she waited until Carlos and Miguel were asleep, then slipped downstairs. The new guard, a younger guy named Tommy, sat by the front door, scrolling his phone. "I need some air," Rosa said. "Just the backyard. 2 minutes." Tommy looked uncertain. "I don't know if..." "There's a 6-foot fence. Where am I going to go?" Rosa forced a smile.
Please.
"I'm going stir-crazy." He hesitated, then nodded. 2 minutes. I'll be watching." Rosa went out the back door into the small yard. The fence did surround it, but there was a gate. She'd noticed it earlier. And Tommy was inside, watching through the window. She shouldn't. She knew she shouldn't. But her entire life was collapsing, and sitting in this house waiting for Lorenzo to fix everything felt like drowning. Rosa opened the gate as quietly as possible and slipped through. The alley behind the safe house was dark, empty. She'd just go to her apartment. It was only a 20-minute walk, talk to Mr. Peterson, grab some essentials, and come back. Nobody would even know. She made it 3 blocks before she realized someone was following her. Rosa's heart hammered as she picked up her pace. Footsteps echoed behind her, matching her speed. She turned down a side street, trying to remember Lorenzo's instructions. Stay in public areas. Never go anywhere alone. If something feels wrong, run. She started running. "Hey," a voice called. "Someone stop her." A van screeched around the corner, cutting off her path. Rosa spun, but 2 men grabbed her from behind. She screamed, fought, kicked. A cloth pressed over her mouth and nose. Chemical smell. Sweet and suffocating. The world tilted sideways. Her last conscious thought was, "Lorenzo's going to kill me." Lorenzo was in a meeting with the heads of 2 allied families when his phone rang. He glanced at it, saw Marcus's name, and his blood went cold. Marcus knew better than to call during negotiations unless. "Excuse me," Lorenzo said, standing. He answered as he walked out of the room. "What happened?" "Boss, she's gone." Marcus's voice was tight with panic. Tommy was on duty. "She said she needed air." Went to the backyard. When he checked on her 2 minutes later, the back gate was open. She ran. Lorenzo's vision tunneled. "When?" 20 minutes ago. "We've been searching, but, boss, there's a body in the alley 2 blocks from the safe house. It's Tommy." Single gunshot. They were waiting for her. The phone cracked in Lorenzo's grip. "Find her.
Now.
Pull every man we have. Check every Castellano property, every warehouse, every location they've ever been associated with." "Already on it. But boss." Say it. If they wanted her dead, they would have killed her in the alley. They took her alive, which means they're going to use her. To hurt him. To break him.
To prove he was weak.
Lorenzo ended the call and returned to the meeting room. Vincenzo took one look at his face and stood. What happened? They have Rosa. Lorenzo's voice was ice. Castellano has her. The room fell silent. Then we get her back, said Marco Benedetti, head of the Benedetti family. How many men do you need? All of them. Lorenzo pulled his gun. Check the magazine. Vincenzo, coordinate with Marco. I want every Castellano location under surveillance in the next 10 minutes. Anyone resists, put them down. Boss, if we go in guns blazing. I don't care. Lorenzo's calm mask had shattered completely. For the first time in years, raw emotion bled through. They took something that belongs to me. I want them to know what that costs. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. Lorenzo answered. De Luca. Tony Castellano's voice was smug, satisfied. I believe I have something of yours.
Pretty little thing.
Shame she's so stubborn. Wouldn't stop fighting even after we drugged her. If you've hurt her, she's alive.
For now.
But that depends entirely on you. Tony paused. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to sign over the South Docks, the gambling operations in Riverside, and the construction contracts downtown. All of it. In exchange, you get your waitress back. Where is she? First you agree to terms. Lorenzo's hand tightened on the phone. Every instinct screamed to refuse, to hunt Tony down and tear him apart with his bare hands. But Rosa's life hung in the balance. Fine, Lorenzo said. You have a deal. Now where is she? Old Castellano, warehouse on Porter Street. Come alone, De Luca. Any tricks, and the girl dies. The line went dead. Vincenzo grabbed Lorenzo's arm. It's a trap. You know it's a trap. I don't care. Lorenzo. I'm going to get her back. Lorenzo's eyes were black fire. And then I'm going to burn their entire organization to the ground. He headed for the door. Boss. Marcus called. At least take backup. Have them surround the building. But I go in alone. Lorenzo looked back at his men, his family, his soldiers. If I don't come out in 30 minutes, level the entire place. I don't care if I'm still in it. Then he was gone, racing through the night toward the woman who'd become his entire world. Behind him, his army mobilized for war. Rosa woke to the sound of water dripping and the taste of copper in her mouth. Her head pounded. Her wrists were zip-tied to a metal chair. The warehouse around her was dark except for a single overhead light that swung slightly, casting moving shadows across concrete and rust. 3 men stood nearby. One was Danny Castellano, bruised from his encounter at her apartment, but very much alive. The other 2 she didn't recognize. She's awake, Danny said, walking over. He crouched in front of her. How's your head, sweetheart? Rosa spat at him. He wiped his face slowly, then backhanded her across the cheek. Pain exploded through her skull. Wrong answer. Danny grabbed her chin, forcing her to look at him. Here's what's going to happen. Lorenzo De Luca thinks he's coming to negotiate for you. But Uncle Tony?
He's got other plans.
See, the only way to really hurt De Luca is to take away his weakness.
Permanently.
He'll kill you, Rosa said through split lips. Maybe. But you'll already be dead, so I won't care much. Footsteps echoed through the warehouse. Everyone tensed. He's here, one of the men said, checking his phone. Came alone like we asked. Danny smiled. Showtime. The warehouse doors screeched open. Lorenzo walked in, hands visible, no weapon drawn. But Rosa could see it in every line of his body, the controlled violence, the barely leashed fury. Lorenzo De Luca. Tony Castellano emerged from the shadows, flanked by 6 armed men. Punctual.
I appreciate that.
Lorenzo's eyes found Rosa. She saw his jaw clench, saw something dangerous flash across his face before he controlled it. Let her go, Lorenzo said. We had a deal. We did. But I've been thinking, why settle for territory when I can have your entire operation? Tony nodded to his men. Kill him. Everything happened at once. The overhead lights exploded in gunfire from outside. The warehouse plunged into darkness. Rosa screamed as someone yanked her chair backward, using her as a shield. Then the real shooting started. Muzzle flashes lit the darkness like lightning. Men shouted. Bodies fell. Rosa squeezed her eyes shut, unable to process the chaos around her. A hand touched her shoulder and she flinched, until she heard Lorenzo's voice, calm and steady despite the war raging around them. I've got you. Hold still. A knife sawed through her zip ties. Her hands came free. Lorenzo pulled her up and behind him in one smooth motion. Stay behind me. Don't look. Just move when I move. But Rosa looked anyway. Lorenzo moved through the warehouse like death itself, smooth, efficient, merciless. He shot 2 men before they could turn, disarmed a third, and used his own gun against him. This wasn't the man who'd listened to her talk about her dreams. This was someone else entirely. Someone terrifying. Boss, west exit clear, someone shouted. Lorenzo guided Rosa toward the voice, his body always between her and danger. They were almost to the door when Danny appeared, gun raised. You're not leaving with her. Lorenzo shoved Rosa aside and lunged. The gun went off. The bullet sparked off metal somewhere behind them. Then Lorenzo had Danny on the ground, his knee on the younger man's chest, a gun pressed to his forehead. Give me one reason, Lorenzo said, his voice colder than ice, why I shouldn't end you right now. Lorenzo, don't. Rosa called out.
Please.
Let's just go. Lorenzo looked at her. In his eyes, she saw the war between who he was and who he wanted to be for her. He pistol-whipped Danny instead, knocking him unconscious, then grabbed Rosa's hand.
Move. Now.
They burst through the warehouse doors into chaos. Lorenzo's men had surrounded the building, at least 20 of them, maybe more. Castellano soldiers lay on the ground, disarmed or dead. Sirens wailed in the distance. In the car, Lorenzo ordered, practically throwing Rosa into the back of the Maybach. He slid in beside her. Go.
Now.
Marco floored it. Rosa couldn't stop shaking. Adrenaline and terror and shock crashed over her in waves. She looked down at her hands, still trembling, bruised from struggling against the zip ties. Rosa, Lorenzo touched her face gently, turning her toward him. Look at me. You're safe now. You're safe. You came, she whispered. You came for me. Always. Always, Rosa. His thumb brushed over the bruise on her cheek where Danny had hit her, and his expression went murderous. I should have killed him. But you didn't. Because I asked you not to. This time. Next time. There won't be a next time. Rosa grabbed his hand. Right? Tell me this is over. Lorenzo pulled out his phone, made a call.
Vincenzo.
Tony Castellano?
Captured.
In custody.
Good.
Make the offer. Full amnesty and relocation for him and his entire family in exchange for permanent withdrawal from all our territories. If he refuses, make the alternative very clear. He hung up and looked at Rosa. It's over. Tony will take the deal. He's a businessman, not a martyr. His organization is broken. You're safe now. Rosa started crying, not from fear or relief, but from the overwhelming reality of what had just happened. This man had walked into a trap for her, had risked his life, his empire, everything. Lorenzo pulled her into his arms, holding her while she shook.
I'm sorry.
God, Rosa, I'm so sorry. This is my fault. All of it. You saved me. I put you in danger in the first place. No, Rosa pulled back to look at him. I put myself in danger. I left the safe house. I don't know what I thought. That I could just go back to normal life for an hour, she laughed bitterly. How stupid is that? Not stupid. Human. Lorenzo kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips, soft, reverent kisses that tasted like goodbye. I can still make this right. I can relocate you and your brothers. New city, new identities, money to start over. You'd be free of all this. Rosa looked at this man, this dangerous, powerful, terrifying man who'd just killed people to save her, and realized something fundamental. She didn't want to be free of him. Or, she said quietly, we could try option B. What's option B? We figure this out. Together. Like we said we would. Lorenzo searched her face. Rosa, you just saw what I am. What I'm capable of. I know. I saw you, she touched his face. And I'm still here. For the first time since the nightmare began, Lorenzo smiled. A real smile, full of hope and wonder. You're sure? Terrified, Rosa admitted. But sure. He kissed her then, deep and desperate and full of promise. And as the Maybach carried them through the night toward whatever came next, Rosa knew one thing for certain. Her life would never be simple again. But maybe simple was overrated anyway. 2 weeks after the warehouse, Rosa stood in Lorenzo's penthouse overlooking the city. Carlos and Miguel were back in school, protected by discreet security they didn't know about. Tony Castellano had taken the deal, exiled to Florida with his remaining family in exchange for permanent peace. The war was over. But Rosa's internal war had just begun. I can't do this, she said, staring out at the glittering skyline. Lorenzo, who'd been reviewing paperwork at his desk, looked up sharply. Can't do what?
This. Us.
Any of it. Rosa turned to face him. 2 weeks ago, I watched you shoot people. I was kidnapped because of you. My brothers were held at gunpoint in our own home. Lorenzo, this is insane. He set down his pen carefully. I know. That's it? You know. What do you want me to say, Rosa? That I can change? That I can walk away from this life? Lorenzo stood, but didn't approach her. I won't lie to you. I am who I am. And yes, being close to me is dangerous. It will always be dangerous. Then why am I here? Her voice broke. Why are we pretending this could work? Because you came back. Lorenzo's composure cracked slightly. After everything, after seeing the worst of my world, you still came back. You're standing here in my home, and you haven't walked away. So I'm asking you why. Rosa wrapped her arms around herself. I don't know. Yes, you do.
She did. God help her, she did.
Because when I was tied to that chair, terrified out of my mind, the only thing I could think was that I wanted to see you again, Rosa admitted. Because despite everything, despite the danger and the violence and how completely insane this all is, when I'm with you, I feel like I can breathe. Like someone actually sees me. Lorenzo closed the distance between them. I do see you. All of you. But I'm scared, Rosa whispered. I'm so scared of your world. Of what it could cost me. Cost my brothers. Then let me keep you separate from it. Lorenzo cupped her face gently. My business, my meetings, all of it, you don't have to be part of that. I can protect you without dragging you into the darkness. Is that even possible? For you? I'll make it possible. His thumb traced her cheekbone. Tell me what you need. Tell me how to make this work.
Rosa thought about it.
Really thought about what she needed to feel safe, to feel like herself. I need my own life, she said finally. My own dreams. I can't just be Lorenzo de Luca's girlfriend. I need to be Rosa Martinez, who has her own goals and her own purpose. The bakery, Lorenzo said.
Yeah.
The bakery, Rosa smiled sadly. But that takes money I don't have. Time I don't have while working 2 jobs just to survive. It's a pipe dream. What if it wasn't? She looked at him sharply. Lorenzo, I'm not asking you for. I know. But I'm offering anyway. He led her to the couch, sat beside her. Let me invest in your dream. Not as charity. As a business investment. You create a proposal, a real business plan, and if it's solid, which I know it will be, I'll back it. You run it completely independently. Your business, your rules. Why would you do that? Because watching you talk about that bakery is the happiest I've ever seen you. Because you deserve to chase your dreams instead of just surviving. Lorenzo took her hand. And because I love you. The words hung in the air. You love me, Rosa repeated.
Yes.
I love you, Rosa Martinez. I think I loved you from the moment you complained about rude customers in my car, he smiled. So let me do this. Let me give you the chance to build something beautiful. Something that's all yours. Rosa felt tears sliding down her cheeks. This is crazy. Probably. We barely know each other. We know enough. Your world and my world are completely incompatible. We'll build a bridge. Lorenzo wiped away her tears. Look, I'm not asking for forever. I'm not asking you to marry into this life or become something you're not. I'm just asking for a chance. To see if we can make this work. On your terms. Rosa looked at this man, this impossible, dangerous, tender man, and made her choice. Okay, she said. We'll try. 3 months later, Rosa stood in front of a small storefront in a good neighborhood, far from Lorenzo's world. The lease was signed. The contractor was scheduled. The sign above the door read, Roses, opening soon. The yellow looks perfect, Jenny said, admiring the freshly painted walls visible through the window. Right?
Rosa grinned.
Exactly how I imagined it. Her phone buzzed. A text from Lorenzo. Proud of you.
Dinner tonight.
She texted back. Can't. Meeting with the pastry supplier. Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
I'll be there. He always was. Not hovering, not controlling, just present when she needed him and absent when she needed space. He kept his promise. His world stayed his world. Her world stayed hers. And where they overlapped, they built something new. It wasn't a fairy tale. Rosa still had nightmares about the warehouse, sometimes. Lorenzo still disappeared for business that she didn't ask about. They still argued about her refusing additional security and his tendency to solve every problem with money. But when Lorenzo picked her up after long days of renovation work, when he listened to her excited rambling about menu ideas, when he showed up to her apartment with takeout and helped quiz Miguel for history tests, in those moments, it felt real. Not perfect, not safe, but real. Rosa unlocked the bakery door, stepped inside, and breathed in the smell of fresh paint and possibility. 3 months ago, she'd gotten into the wrong car. And somehow, impossibly, it had become exactly the right one. Outside, a black Maybach pulled up to the curb. Lorenzo stepped out, holding a single yellow rose. Rosa laughed and went to meet him. They still had a long way to go, but for the first time in her life, Rosa wasn't afraid of the journey. She was ready for it.